CAL Chat. This is where we discuss our favorite Al-Anon and Alateen literature and how it's improved our lives. And this is actually part 2 of my conversation with BJ from episode 2. Hope you enjoy.
And now, BJ, let's talk about your favorite outreach piece of literature. What is your favorite piece?
Oh, my goodness. Al-Anon has so many great outreach pamphlets and pieces of literature, and all of them focus on a particular purpose and meaning of Al-Anon. They're all very important. However, my favorite piece of outreach literature isn't considered in that category at all, and that is the detachment piece. And if you want to check it out, it's number S, like in Sam, -19. It's just a little tiny one-page piece of literature, and it gives a general outline how Al-Anon can help and what Al-Anon is about. It also lists what we learn in Al-Anon. So for that, I think it's a very important piece. But then it specifically talks about detachment. When I first attended my Al-Anon meeting and received this piece, I thought I knew all about detachment. And here's how my detachment went. I would detach your arm from your body and beat you about the head and shoulders with it until you saw things my way or succumbed to something that I thought was the right way to do something. You see, but guess what? I found out very quickly that form of detachment was all wrong. And this little flyer tells me that alcohol is, in fact, a family disease. Even though, we aren't the person drinking, there are certainly side effects that most close friends, co-workers, and family members experience. We are not responsible to fix, nor can we fix. Ooh, that was a biggie. Nor can we fix another person's addiction. This tool, detachment, tells me I don't have to physically separate myself from the alcoholic. However, I may want to go into another room and emotionally hit my reset button, which I hit frequently. Detachment teaches me how to look at the alcoholic, the disease, and events in my life through what let's call a different pair of glasses, to consider the matter objectively and realistically. With detachment, I have learned to consider if I had any part in the matter, to take ownership of it. And finally, that little piece of paper tells me that detachment reminds me to eliminate judgment and condemnation. It encourages me to view life's upsets realistically and objectively. So that is why I always have the detachment piece of literature handy for my review and to hand out.
Yeah, it makes a great bookmark, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always to have that sticking out of my books with the big word detachment looking right at me.
I have it. I actually have this piece tattooed on the back of my eyelids. I just absolutely love it. I use it quite frequently. If I'm one of those people who, excessive caregiving, I think we call it. We want to get in there and help them. We want to try to control others. We try to fix others, to cure others, and we just can't. So this is especially a good piece for me.
I just love the word detachment because it's not the word separate or separation, which has a completely different meaning. And I love when it's said with the other 2 words after it, detach with love, because I think there's a way you can still have all the love, but just not all the anxiety that comes with it. And to me, that's what detachment is, getting rid of all the worry and the nervousness and whole ball of wax of anxiety. And it helps put the focus on me.
Yeah, right.
Not anywhere else or anybody else. And that's where I'm able to detach. And
we're the only ones we can control, right?
That's right. The other thing I learned, I was doing a little research on this one too, and there was an earlier detachment leaflet that, if someone's been in the program a while, they'll know it as kind of like the purplish leaflet, because now the new one is blue.
Mm-hmm.
But back when it was the purple leaflet, the back of it mentioned that Al-Anon was a self-help recovery program. But I'm glad they took that out of the new leaflet, because I don't see how it can be considered a self-help program. When I was trying to help my own self, I was doing a horrible job of it. And I think this program is more of a we program. It's done with other people. It's done through meetings. It's done through having a sponsor or being a sponsor. It's done through service work, and as well as the literature. There's just all these different methods to help recover, more than just helping yourself.
Yes, what a tremendous point. I remember that, it was my best thinking that got me terribly sick. And I was down a very deep, dark well and couldn't find my way out. And so no self-help would work. And I agree that Al-Anon is truly a we program. And it gives me the tools and a pattern, a program to follow to help. And that's exactly what I've experienced. The other thing with this detachment piece that was so important for me, it taught me to separate what you mentioned, the disease, from the person I love. So I love my alcoholic, but I hate the disease.
Yeah, that is crucial. And that, for me, that took a long time to see the two as two different entities.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like the disease has a life of its own as well, and the person that I love has a life of his own. But sometimes one takes over the other. But yeah, being able to extract the disease from the person, to be able to look at each in its own light, that was powerful. When I was finally years and years able, later on in the program, able to finally get to that point, yeah, I think that was a big step in detachment.
Yes, good point. Absolutely.
The last part of the show is basically what I call last words. It's for anything you'd like to share to wrap up the show, any final thoughts to impart to our listeners.
That's interesting. Final thoughts. Well, I would have to say for me, Al-Anon isn't a matter of one day a week for an hour I go to a meeting. It's not just a slogan that I remember every now and then. It truly has been a do-over. It's a different way of living. And the result of that different way of living is the serenity that I talked about earlier in the podcast. And you can't put a dollar figure on that serenity. That doesn't mean the circumstances around you will necessarily change. It doesn't mean that you won't be inflicted with bad health or situations that are beyond your control. But Al-Anon has given me all the tools that I need, as well as a growth in my spiritual walk that makes everything possible and gives me tremendous hope. And if I wanted to say a one-word bit of encouragement, I would say that through Al-Anon and through our literature and through the we of this program, there is hope. And that's a wonderful thing.
Fantastic words. I'm sitting here with a permanent grin on my face just listening to all this. Oh, and it's just so calming. I feel my blood pressure going down. It's like there's hope. Yes. It doesn't always have to be this bad or this dark or just hopeless. There is hope. So I love that. Love that final words and final thoughts. So thank you again for being part of the show, BJ. It's been great. It's always great talking to you. And I'm glad now that others will be able to hear your words of wisdom as well. And thank you for listening, everyone, and happy reading.